All right, I think we are live. Hello, everyone. If you could let us know if you can hear us by just dropping a message in the chat on the right-hand side, that will be great. We'll just wait a couple of minutes, see if anything comes through. If you could just let us know if you can hear us, that will be fantastic. Thank you very much. All right, Bonita. Hi, Bonita.
Hi, Bonita.
Okay, so we're getting some Stephen. Hi, Stephen. All right, so we got Aladdin. Hey. Okay, so we got. Can hear you well. Amazing. All right, we got a good number of people. Hi, hello, everyone. Maria, Parth, on Pep. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. My name is Shaheen. I'm the founder of X Growth and host for today's event, which is all around marketing automation. And I'm joined by Nina Jung, the CMO of MadeComfy. And we're going to be sitting down and talking a everything about marketing automation. Now, before we start, a little bit about Growth Colony and what Growth Colony is all about. We're a community of marketers and growth specialists working on multiple different aspects of marketing. And we run these webinars and our events on regular basis to basically educate and share with everyone. And today we have the privilege of really being joined by Nina, who brings just ample amount of experience from what she's done, not only from at MadeComfy, but some of the previous companies that she's worked on before. But I'm not going to try to explain that. Nina, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing at MadeComfy and a little bit about your background, that would be amazing.
Sure. Thanks, guys, for having me. So my name is Nina. I'm the CMO of MadeComfy. MadeComfy is a property performance expert. So we manage people's properties, renting on short-term rental platforms such as Airbnb, Booking.com, and TripAdvisor, and so on. But we also manage the guest side of our properties that we manage as well. I joined MadeComfy about 2 years ago. I was maybe one of the first ones. Like the company was about 10 people when I joined back in 2017. Now we are growing to close to 100. So yeah, it's quite an exciting time to join the company. Previous to working at MadeComfy, I worked for various startups in different kind of stages of startup. I worked for Hotels Combined and also a company called Delivery Hero in Germany when they were going into IPO. So yeah, really focusing on performance, and that's kind of my background. But I've been working on various different areas of marketing, so branding and yeah, like retention and things like that. So yeah, that's
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Now, you have prepared a presentation for us for this morning.
Yes.
Well, depends where you're based. If you're on the East Coast, it's actually it's kind of everywhere. If you're from Australia, it's going to be morning everywhere. But you've prepared a presentation around marketing automation. What I also want to mention is, as we're going through this presentation, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop that in the chat on the right hand side, and sometimes in the middle, but most probably towards the end, we're going to have some time and we're going to go through the questions. And I'm probably going to come up with some questions as well, and we'll go through a Q&A session towards the end. On that note, Nina, are we all good to kick this off?
Sure, let's go.
Go for it, please.
Yeah, so how to boost marketing and sales marketing automation. And I'm sure everyone has kind of explored marketing automation to some degree, but I wasn't too sure, how much people have explored. So I'm guessing that, like people have kind of looked into it, but they see an area of improvement in marketing automation. So if you're really advanced with marketing automation, or you have experience with it, I would like to chat to you after presentation, or connect in LinkedIn. But yeah, like there are some parts that might be a little bit basic, but I will try to kind of cover with examples and things that we found quite useful at MadeComfy building automation. So let's go. Cool. So what is marketing automation? It is a platform that marketers use to plan, coordinate, manage, and measure all of their marketing campaigns. It's often used along with lifecycle marketing strategy to closely manage and nurture and generate leads and convert leads into customers. And really, my takeaway from this definition I got from HubSpot is that marketing automation needs to be used in a context of lifecycle marketing strategy. And I'm going to be talking a lot about lifecycle marketing strategy in the coming slides. Because yeah, it is kind of a key in designing successful marketing automation. It can help marketers to manage large-scale campaign, replace manual process, and be aligned with sales and other departments, which I'm going to be talking in the following slides in a bit more detail. So managing large-scale campaigns, it is very powerful when it comes to lead nurturing using marketing automation. Lead nurturing, by definition, is building relationships. Really, that's what it is about. But you need to kind of understand, where your leads and customers are at in different buyer's journey steps. And why is it important? I took some really good stats from Marketo. On average, 50% of the leads in any system are not yet ready to buy. Almost 80% of new leads never become sales. Companies that excel lead nurturing generates 50% more sales-ready leads at 33% lower cost. And nurture leads makes 47% larger purchase than non-nurture leads. So what I really take away from here is that if you don't have a lead nurturing in place, then you're just basically leaving your money on the table. You might be spending a lot of money acquiring leads through different marketing channels, but only a handful of them at the point of acquisition are ready to actually, sign a deal with you. So if you don't actually nurture them properly, then basically you have a leakage in your marketing. What's really important when it comes to lead nurturing is it needs to be targeted. Again, coming down to understanding life cycle stage of leads. Sorry, I can't really see with these buttons. I think I said personalized. And then it needs to be timely. So again, it all comes down to really understanding where your leads and customers are at within the buyer's journey. And reach them with customized messaging when they actually need to receive. And these are the keys for successful lead nurturing. The other thing that automation can really help marketers is putting rules in place so that it replaces manual processes. So for example, you can put a rule around your workflow, automation to segment your database. For example, what we do here is that when we receive a lead with certain property information, for example, postcode or property postcode, we then put a rule around automation to say, if the lead's property postcode starts with 2, then update state column with New South Wales. So that's a kind of segmentation we do. And then once you have that kind of segmentation or list, then you will use that to target with different communication. You can even use it to target them as a custom audience on Facebook and so on. That's quite useful. And yeah, communication. So going back to lead nurturing and email communication, you can build kind of automated process to reach them at right time endpoints. And task alert and reminder creation, depending on what you want to do, it can really enhance the productivity of the team. So yeah, you can set a rule to say after certain days, of leads become, I don't know, a certain life cycle stage, send a reminder to salesperson to follow up. It's the kind of stuff that you can do to really help team kind of reach their goal. And close the gap in, sorry, there are lots of buttons on the slide that kind of difficult, yeah.
Is close the gap in cross-functional
Close the
team
gap,
workflows.
yeah. Oh, I just need to move, I think, the mouse. Yeah, close the gap in cross-functional team workflow. And this is where we at MadeComfy really benefited from having strong automation. Is that so especially marketing, sales, and customer care, these are the business units that have touch points with customers at different life cycle stage. And these teams need to get together and decide what is the life cycle stage and what is the definition of different life cycle stage of customer and leads. And once that is agreed, then you can be very sure on who is responsible for what stage of lead. So for example, marketing will be responsible for taking care of leads that are in subscriber all the way to SQL level lifecycle stage, and sales will then take over from SQL to so sales qualify lead to deal level, and customer care team would obviously take care of onwards after deal is signed. And that's the whole process can be automated as well. So you can set a rule in your automation to say, like leads that meets this rule will become SQL or lead or a subscriber or customer. Once that is all in place in your automation or CRM, then you can start report on how many leads and SQLs that you have, and then you can set strategy around it as well. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And one of the things that I want to touch on here, and maybe if you could clarify a little bit further, is you've talked about marketing at the top and then that kind of leading into sales and then customer care. But there's also, it looks like there's a bit of a loop. Can you maybe explain why customer care is going back to marketing?
Yeah, sure. I guess this could be a unique setup in MadeComfy as well, but we own all email communication, whether they are to leads or SQL or to customer. So in our case, once we define our lifecycle stage, we then own the communication. So when customer care team say, hey, we want to send out this specific communication to people who are in onboarding stage, we do that. And that's why it's quite a unique setup, I guess, in MadeComfy. And we also help customer care setting up NPS surveys and customer satisfaction surveys and things like that. We own that all within our automation tool. That's probably why it's set up this way. And of course, because we own all this communication, what we're trying to do also is that we're trying to, I don't know if you guys heard of flywheel concept from HubSpot. Basically, is that customers, the existing customer can be the biggest endorser of generating leads, basically. So if you have happy customers, then they would actually refer you to their friends, and then you start generating, acquisitions through that. So yeah, we're trying to kind of use that concept as well in here.
Awesome. Okay.
Cool. Some of the challenges that I see using automation is that when I talk to some marketers, their focus is very much email, when it comes to automation, but automation can do so much more than just email drip campaign. And as I said earlier, it can replace a lot of mundane processes. It helps, closing the gap between the team, and it helps reporting. There's so much more than just email that automation does. So that's, I think, the mindset that marketers needs to kind of, change. Strategy versus tactics, tied it into email focused mindset, is that sometimes people will just think, okay, this is the email that I want to send it to leads in this life cycle stage. But you need to also think about when you're designing automation or lead nurturing workflow, you need to think about the holistic experience that you want that lead in that specific life cycle stage to experience. Rather than just thinking about one specific email that the person will receive. And also, especially when it comes to lead nurturing automation, it's not a set and forget. You need to monitor how it's working, set a goal for that workflow, but also monitor how individual communication or emails are performing in terms of clicks and open rates. And yeah, optimize always. So yeah, we do that quite frequently. Something that I also saw as well is that once you start having very complex network of workflows and automation, sometimes one workflow or one automation is relying on the other as well. So if you change, let's say, one criteria for one workflow, it can actually break the other. So you need to have a really good documentation of how you set up, how you design your workflows in the beginning, rather than just going and just creating new workflows. And yeah, just making sure that everyone in the marketing team are actually aware of how everything is working together.
Nice.
Also, what we saw as well is that, especially when it comes to lead nurturing workflow, is sometimes sales gets really excited about getting leads, and then they jump on it and start sending emails when they're still in the lead nurturing process. And this is something that you just need to kind of communicate and be aligned on, is that the experience that the lead might have is that they start receiving so many emails because they're still enrolled into marketing workflow. So they get all these automated emails at the same time getting sales email, and they don't know where these emails are all coming from, and then that's just not a good experience for end user. So yeah, you just need to always monitor and work closely with different teams.
And Nina, you mentioned here, being very email focused, and you brought up nurturing as well. And I think you're definitely right on the fact that a lot of people associate automation with emails, and in most cases, nurturing with emails. That they say, nurturing is when somebody identifies themselves as a lead at the top of the funnel, and then I'm going to be sending them a series of emails in order to nurture them. Have you at MadeComfy seen that, or maybe implemented other ways of nurturing a lead rather than just email, or is it mainly focused on email from your side?
Email is definitely the main channel when it comes to lead nurturing. But my point there was that automation is not equal to email. But yeah, definitely email is the main thing. And what I've seen in the past, and not in MadeComfy but other companies, is that they use, for example, push notification as a way to reach people and nurture. So there are different formats of lead nurturing, but in our business, it makes sense for us because it's it's a longer buyer cycle. So and it's not a technology focus. It's a very kind of offline sales driven. So yeah, for us, it makes sense for us to send an email.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how automation worked for us at MadeComfy. Just a little bit of background. So when I joined MadeComfy about 2 years ago, we didn't have much process around how to deal with leads, and the way that we were capturing leads, we didn't really think about sales intent or anything like that. So we had about 2-3 forms on the website capturing pretty much similar information from people, and the communication around it was really kind of random as well. So it didn't necessarily, just because we had phone numbers, didn't necessarily mean that people had sales intent, or expecting sales to call them. Almost we were at times forcing people to leave phone number to get something. So that was a challenge we had, and because there wasn't much process around sales as well, sales were going after every single lead that had a phone number, and again, we didn't know the intent of the leads, and from there we obviously had inefficiency in conversion. So that was the background. So what I did when I first joined was to really trying to understand, or starting from the basic of marketing, is to really understand who was our target audience, and really trying to come up with a clear journey of our target audience, and put a map around their buyer's journey. And we built, so all our marketing strategy, either performance or content or inbound, is now really built around the buyer's map, which I'm going to go into it now. So this is just an example of how we do it at MadeComfy, and it's a lead journey map. So you can see in columns, different columns, there's different steps in buyer's journey. So it starts from awareness all the way to re-engagement. And then you can see the kind of behaviors that you will see for leads in different stages. So, when the lead is in awareness stage, the person has expressed symptoms of potential problems and opportunity. The kind of information they need is really high in the funnel information, or almost educational content. The kind of channels that we should use to target people are, again, very high in the funnel, above the line channels. So we have that in place for our target audience, and that's used for all our channel marketing strategy. And it's really useful to have this in place when you're thinking about lead nurturing, because then you can start to use the right content, right email to reach them, when they need those things the most. And then what I also did was defining life cycle stage. Again, we had that a challenge of not really understanding where leads were at when it comes to buyer stage. So once that was defined, we had to then put them into these rules in our workflow, in automation. So what we did, the two things that we're trying to solve here, again, is improving user experience, so that when they're high in the funnel, sales are not going after them and asking them to talk about deals and stuff, because they're not ready. So that improves user experience once we have a clear understanding of where people are at. The other thing is obviously helping sales to focus on the warmest leads once we have the clear definition of life cycle stage. And what we did was working closely with sales and came up with definition and put it into automation in our CRM to manage that by itself. And how we did it was actually using lead scoring. So there are two types of lead scoring lead score attributes that we use. One is implicit attributes, which is action-based, or things that the leads do within website or outside of website. And then explicit attributes, which is based on the information that we gather from the leads. So implicit attribute might be to do with the certain forms they use, the website pages they view, or how many times they view the website pages, whether they subscribe or unsubscribe blogs, and certain white papers that they downloaded. And explicit is more around kind of qualification attributes. So whether they're, let's say for us, property is located in an area that we can service or not. And also, type of properties that they want us to manage. There are some type of properties that we don't prefer to manage, so then it would actually have a negative score. So then what happens is that this is actually put it into our automation, dynamically change the lead scoring. And then we have several workflows that captures that information and change the lifecycle stage. So for example, if the lead score is less than 4, we'll put them as awareness stage. And then if score is higher than 8, then we will consider them as very warm leads. So call them a sales qualified lead. Does that make sense?
And I think you raised a really important point at the beginning when you said that when you were deciding on this system, this came about from the conversation that you were having with sales team, and it wasn't something siloed in marketing. And the marketing team decided that, hey, these are the attributes that we're going to look at, and this is the kind of grade that we're giving. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. No, because otherwise it would just break. Like, we need to agree on who is responsible for what. So yeah, especially when it comes to sales qualified lead, which is the overlapping KPI between marketing and sales, we need to come up with very clear, defined definition.
Yeah. And does it happen in any situation that maybe sales would creep into, consideration stage leads, or awareness stage leads? If, for example, the sales team is sitting down and don't have enough leads, do you lower that standard in terms of who they can call, and is there any flexibility on that front?
So we try not to, and this is, I mean, we do see that happening sometimes. Again, let's say property postcode is one of the key attributes that sales look at. And if they see, let's say, this week, they don't have enough SQLs to work on, and then they see a lead with a really good location, right? And they jump on it. Then again, you see a situation where they start to engage the people who actually don't have sales intent yet. That doesn't help the KPI, or that doesn't help sales conversion rate. So it's a constant kind of education that we also need to give to sales guys as well. Is that at the end, you are actually doing works or manual works that doesn't really help their conversion rate.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Cool. Personalized lead nurturing experience. And we use, again, the previous slide, I had lead journey mapping. So we use that to create a lead nurturing experience within workflow. And this, what you see here is a typical kind of design of our workflow, lead nurturing workflow. It will always start with some sort of enrollment criteria. Most of the times it's life cycle stage. So the enrollment criteria could be, if this was for people who are in lead stage, then it will be, the criteria is people who are in lead stage. Then they go through series of different rules that we set up. So first thing might be there's some sort of delay, because what we want the lead to experience is that this the whole experience is natural. It doesn't seem like it's automated. So we don't want to send out emails in like really weird time or straight away that actually makes people think that it is all automated. So usually put some sort of delay there. And then we've got qualification. Again, location is a key qualification questions that we ask that sales will have to do anyway. So then we put it here so that it's automated and we can actually pre-qualify where their property is located in. And depending on where their property is located, for example, we will then change the data set. If they are out of range, then we would actually mark them as out of range. Then they would actually go through a different branch of lead nurturing, receiving a very specific communication. If not, and they are in range, then they start to receive a nurturing series of email. And we have, again, set a really clear goal for each of these lead nurturing workflow. And basic idea is that we want these people to move closer to sales or down the funnel lifecycle stage. That's usually the goal of each workflow. And then again, we monitor really closely the individual email communication. And the metrics we see there is usually click and open rate.
Gotcha. Nina, does it happen at any point that a lead would go somewhere in the middle of the funnel? So they would not start from the awareness stage, or they would start from consideration stage. Does that happen, or do you see that all leads go through the same funnel?
No,
They
well, they do. They start in any stage really, depending on, I guess, the channel they're coming from. If they're coming from, let's say, a refer a friend program, and they're very ready before even they come to our website. So they could even start from MQL stage. Whereas, we still have a large number of kind of high in the funnel leads that we need to work on. So that is the biggest. So it's really the funnel shape. But we do, like, depending on the communication they're coming through, the touch point that they have, the channels that they're coming through, they can start anywhere.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And so the outcome of all this is efficiency. We are able to, as you saw in one of the first slides, that if you don't have lead nurturing automation in place, you're missing out so much, acquire leads. And that's really a leakage in marketing. So we're able to convert them much better. Especially when the lead or sales cycle is longer, you definitely need to have lead nurturing in place, and that is automated rather than you manually sending nurturing emails. Enhanced lead journey, again, we are dealing with leads, understanding where they're in their buyer journey rather than just sending out blanket emails to them, so that their experience is seamless and it makes sense for them, and make them warmer naturally. Team productivity, working between sales and marketing have been so much easier this way. And to the next point as well, because now we have a set definition of different life cycle stage, we can then set a target for different teams. So for example, we work from backwards. So if we have a target of new properties that we need to sign is X many, in certain months, we then work backwards how many SQLs that we need to drive, and how many leads and subscribers we need to drive, and the sessions that we need to drive. So, once we have a clear definition, we can actually put KPIs that way and strategies around it. Does that make sense?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely does.
And then I'm going to end my slides with a quote from Neil Patel. Marketing automation tools make your job a little more painless, so you and your team can focus your time and attention on other efforts that drive revenue. And I can't agree more.
I love it.
Cool.
This is great. I mean, this was really insightful, going through the overall perspective of automation, the marketing automation, talking about nurturing, talking about the buyer's life cycle and the buyer's journey, and then into lead scoring and kind of wrapping up on the last points that you mentioned. If there are questions, please send them through. One of the questions that two people have been bringing up is, are we going to get the slides or not? And that's your call, Nina. If you think we could have these slides.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Yeah, we'll send them out later on. So not a problem at all. So one of the questions is tool based, which we get very often from Bonita. And the question is, what automation systems do you recommend for small or sole businesses? I'm guessing that's sole owner businesses.
Right. A lot of my experience is around HubSpot, and we find that to be fantastic for small and medium business. They have a really good tech support as well as account management support. And I think you can start free as well. So it's a freemium tool. But it really comes down to, what is your budget, how many leads and contacts that you need to save in the tool. Yeah, you can do your shopping. There are even cheaper versions versions of a CRM and automation tool than HubSpot.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Now, the other question is, was that so that's HubSpot, which is oh, there we go. Ruth answered that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ruth. Now, Stephen has a question, and he says he asks, in terms of lead scoring, could you break it down a little more? How points are is it per opens? So I think the question, and Stephen, please feel free to correct me, is, how do you can you give us an example of how that could potentially get allocated across multiple different activities, and what those activities could be? I don't know how much you can share on that front.
Yeah, so I mean, I can tell you this much. We have about 25 different attributes that we use, mix of implicit and explicit attributes. But what's really, in terms of the scores that we give more weight towards things that actually give us an indication of sales intent. So we do still give points to, let's say, page views and subscriber, unsubscriber, that sort of stuff. But where we kind of put much more weight towards in terms of giving more points is, what kind of forms they fill in. And by that, I mean, what is the communication around the form? If it was, let's say, inquiry around, callback kind of form, then of course that's a very strong signal for sales. Then we give much more points to that than, say, page views and things like that.
Okay. And is there a system that you have for allocating that? Because, let's say I'm a business and I say I want to implement lead scoring, right? Because and I'm not sure if those numbers are accurate, or you were just giving, for example, that you were saying that, if somebody is below 4, they're in awareness. If they go after that, they're in consideration until 8, and after 8, they become sales qualified leads where sales can reach out to them. Is there a system that you have in place for kind of deciding that? How, is that just purely trial and error of testing it? Or there's a framework that you would say, hey, we consider somebody who reaches out, a hand raiser, or somebody who makes an inquiry to be contacted, 100, and then kind of break it down from there. Is there a system that you've come across or you've implemented before?
No, so it was really try and error for us. I think for HubSpot specifically, I think they've got smart rules around it, and basically using their AI to determine what needs to be what score. But for us, it was really coming up with what may matter for us in terms of important attributes, and just giving kind of an index number. So like, let's say, again, with the example of page view, for example, versus very strong sales intent form use, like we just then use kind of a weighted scores between those two. So yeah, for us, for our business, it makes sense to do it kind of that way. Talking to different people and different stakeholders to see, if these attributes make sense and the scores make sense. But yeah, like some tools actually suggest that that you should put this much to certain attributes.
Yeah, and as you said, yeah, I've seen a lot that people say it's a trial and error.
Yeah.
One of the things that could help is just look at your touch points with your customer as a scale of 1 to 10, and saying 10 is the most. Imagine what could be a 10, and 10 is one action that your customer can take, which really demonstrate it's the most powerful signal that they can give that they are ready to buy, and then measure everything based on that.
Yeah.
And if that's raising their hands, and that you give that a 10, then having a website view might be 1, and then go between there.
Yeah.
Cool. We got another example from Bonita, and she asked, what examples could you give for lead nurturing emails slash contact to move them along the process. So yeah, so when it comes to examples around nurturing, is there anything that comes to mind, Nina?
Yeah, so for example, if we are talking about lead nurturing workflow that is targeting high up in the funnel leads, then a lot of it is around education. So we don't necessarily talk anything about our services yet, but it's more around talking about markets and just general kind of educational content. We repurpose a lot of our blog articles because it's a lot of work to recreate something, but we have a very good content that we already create for blog and white papers and things like that. So we try to repurpose what's already there and break it down and put it into different series of emails. Again, if it's high up in the funnel, then it's very educational around kind of broader topic of, let's say, short-term rental in our case, or market data, so that people are a bit more engaged, a bit more interested about knowing more about short-term rental as a market. As it goes down, let's say if you were to target people in I don't know, MQL or SQL stage, then we start to talk a bit more around how MadeComfy is different to competition. What is our USP? What are the case studies? What people in their area have achieved in terms of rental returns, since they started working with us. So it starts to be very specific in what we can do for them, so that they then start to thinking about, okay, I should contact, I should get someone in MadeComfy to contact me.
Yeah, and on that note, I think it's sometimes smaller businesses get scared when we talk about hey, we have content and we kind of feed them that content, and we present them that content. And what is important to know is, for example, at X Growth, we produce a lot of content. All of these are content, but there are some times that we don't have content about things. And what we do is we basically go across the web and find content that are relevant to what we preach and what we talk about. And in a lot of situations, we send that out to clients and talk about, for example, we're in B2B growth and marketing, and we talk about how Gartner is talking about a certain area, and we present that to them and say, hey, this is a very interesting article about Gartner, and we do that as nurturing. So you don't necessarily have to produce tons and tons of content in the early days if you don't have those resources. You could definitely leverage external content for that. Cool. We got another question that came through. Do you research or survey your customers, especially in regards to how you communicate with them? Good one. What are your thoughts on that, Nina?
So the way that we did was we interview different stakeholders, mainly sales and customer care team, because they have a direct interaction with our customers. And then, yeah, we built our target audience persona, if you like. So we have a very specific target audience persona in place. But yeah, you can definitely, depending on your business, you can definitely do some survey with your leads or customers. Yeah, for sure.
And I love how you mentioned you got that data from your sales and customer success team. I think one of the mistakes that a lot of marketing teams again do. We've discussed this briefly before. Is they say, "Hey, we're responsible for creating this persona, and then we know our customer, and then they go again make it an internal thing, and they create that persona where sales and customer success or customer service or whatever term you want to put on that team, they're the ones that are constantly in interaction with that customer, and sometimes marketing might be a little bit more removed from that, and they could provide such great insight in terms of who those customers are.
Yeah,
Thanks
for
for
sure.
that. All right. Well, look, we've covered a fair bit today. Is there anything else that you think we should cover before we wrap this up, Nina?
No, I think, as I said, I think the main thing is really just go and try and build something. And if I look back, the first versions of our lead nurturing and automation, they were not accurate at all. And they were, again, overlapping, breaking all the time. And again, you have to constantly work with sales and customer success team to really know, like, this is how it should be, and setting process around it as well, because there are lots of overlapping responsibilities. So you do a little bit of that in the beginning, but yeah, I mean, you just need to start and see if that works for you. But it has really worked for us in MadeComfy.
Yeah, basically, don't try to build a spaceship from day one and try
Yeah,
to, build a cart first and then build on top of that.
exactly.
Amazing. Now, Nina, if anybody here wants to get in touch with you or have more questions for you, what would be the best way for them to reach you? Is it through your website, LinkedIn, or email? What is
Yeah,
the best way to get?
LinkedIn will be best, because I'll be away, Shaheen, as you know, for about 4 months. So yeah, I'm having a baby and I'm going on a maternity leave very soon. So yeah, LinkedIn will be the best way to reach me, because I hope I won't be checking emails. But
All
let's see.
right, amazing, amazing. Well, look, I really appreciate you jumping on this call. So close to the little one coming, and taking the time out to do this webinar with us. And the recording of this would be presented to everybody. So keep an eye out, and we will send out the slides in probably the next 24 hours or so. But Nina, again, thank you so much for joining, and everybody else, thank you for hopping on the call. Really appreciate it, and make sure to keep an eye out for our next events, and we'll see you there.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Nina.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye bye.